Welcome back, fiber friends, to another episode of the Wool to Gold podcast. My name is Brian, I am your host, and today we have some new yarn. Yes, you heard that correctly, new yarn, and it's not hand spun. So I think there's a grave misconception if you are not a part of the hand spinning community. I know a ton of like knitters and crocheters who think that hand spinners only use hand spun yarn. Obviously not. Obviously, we also buy other yarn. I'm sure that there are some hand spinners that use exclusively their own hand spun, but I don't know any of them. I don't know a single one of them because at the end of the day, who doesn't like being able to immediately start a project, right? As much as I love spinning, sometimes you get an idea for something and the prospect of having to spin that much yarn before even really starting the project can be a little bit of a deterrent. So just like everybody else, we love to go out and buy yarn. And I recently went to literally my favorite yarn store, I think in all of New Jersey, or all of northern New Jersey, okay? I can't really speak for southern Jersey because Jersey's kind of a big state. It's long. But anyway, that means I went to one of my favorite local yarn shops, the Blue Pearl, okay? So I've been going to the Blue Pearl since they had their old location in, I can't even remember if they were in Montclair or Morristown. Regardless, I loved them. I love the vibe there. It's always the same people when I go in. Whenever I go in, it's usually the same two women who are really warm, really welcoming, super helpful and friendly. Really adore their energy. So if you go to their Instagram page, they do a really cute thing where a lot of the times when people buy like a sweater's worth of yarn, they'll take a before and after picture, like with the yarn and then with the finished object, and we can post it on our Instagram and show people like what you made with the yarn that you bought here. And I really like that. Like, it's little things like that that I wish shops did. I also just think they're very, like, again, just, they're so friendly to everybody that it's a very inclusive space, sort of inherently, which again, all yarn shops should be inclusive spaces, because at the end of the day, if I'm going somewhere to spend my money in this economy, I personally really try to vote with my dollars. Like, I really try to shop from places that have my same values and my best interests in mind, because why would I not do that? I have the privilege and ability to, so why would I not do that? Question we should all be asking ourselves during this time. And I stayed very on budget for myself for January. I know like talking about finances can be a little taboo for some people, but I also think that just like as a small artist, I like to be super transparent about like I have a full-time day job that I go to. I don't have that in January, so obviously I budget and account for that throughout the entire year. Kind of like how I feel like there's a lot of school teachers, you know, like you get your salary during the year and then some people don't have it pay out to them over the summer. I know that's like an optional thing, but if you don't have it pay out to you over the summer, you have to budget and account for things like that. And so that's what I do. And despite traveling quite a bit during January, I did very well. And so I had a little extra funds and I thought I would put that towards some local yarn purchases from some brands of yarn that I just really love. And so I'd love to talk about them. My last comment before sharing both of these really wonderful, super fun yarns with you is the fact that none of this is sponsored. I spent my own money on these yarns. I paid full price for one of them. Some of the yarn was on clearance, and I'll talk about that when I actually talk about this yarn. But I paid full price. This is not sponsored by the yarn shop, by this like small local yarn shop. I just really love them, and I think they deserve just like a little spotlight if you are local to this area or you're going to be visiting anytime soon. And again, I really like these brands. I think they produce really reliable yarns, and in a lot of cases I do really agree with what the companies stand for, and so I kind of wanted to highlight that as well. So I'm gonna start with a yarn that you guys have actually technically seen before. So I would say maybe a year ago, maybe longer. That's kind of embarrassing. I bought 4 skeins of this yarn. So this is Kelbourne Woolens Scout. The color that I got 4 skeins of is Driftwood, which is kind of oatmeal-y. I don't know if that's reading on screen, but it's kind of like, it's an oatmeal-y yarn, as you can see. I really, really like the color, but I just couldn't figure out what to do with it, or with this specific yardage. Like, let's be honest, 4 skeins, especially for a crocheter, is like, what, like, it's a really weird in-between amount. That's what I'll say. That's what I'll say, okay? I even wrote a really long time ago, I don't know if you guys can see that, I even wrote like a super long time ago, as you can see, that I wanted this to be the base color in something, so I kind of always knew that I was going to add something to this yarn, because again, I had 4 skeins of it. It's this really beautiful base, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted the other colors to be, and if I'm being totally honest, I remembered that when I bought this yarn, okay, this was silly of me too. When I bought this yarn, I was thinking to myself, wow, when I looked at this color online on webs, it looked like it was going to go with certain like tones and certain colors, but then when I was in the store, because I actually bought this from Blue Pearl, I bought this from Blue Pearl too. This is the thing, I bought this exact yarn from Blue Pearl like over a year ago, all right? That's super funny. And I was like, it doesn't go with the colors that I thought it would, so when I go and buy the yarn that I want to like do the color work with, I'm gonna need to bring one of these bases so that I can look and compare. Fast forward to now, okay, I was finally going back to the yarn store, alrighty, and one of the reasons that I was going back to the yarn store is because, of course, at one point, I totally forgot all of this. Classic Brian. And I went onto the website and I was like, oh, they'll probably have one of like the better selection when it comes to colors and things like that. So I thought. I went on there, they were sold out of frankly all of the good colors, and I was like, I cannot tell if these colors would even go with the driftwood shade that I got. So I was like, you know what? Let's go back to Blue Pearl. I didn't realize that they had a new location. I hadn't realized that they moved locations, and I hadn't been to the new one yet, so it was really great to be able to go into the store and see the new store, because it's a great space. I really like it. But these are the colors that I picked out. So I pulled out the one of the driftwood just so you could see it kind of all together and understand how just great this color scheme is, okay? I just love the colors. They're super fun and happy. I already have an idea for the piece, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I do want to talk a little bit more about the actual Kelbourne Woolens yarn. This is Kelbourne Woolens Scout, all right? They do make a few different yarns, but I do think that Scout is my favorite. It's their DK weight, I'm 99% sure, yeah. It's their DK weight yarn. It is a 100% wool yarn, 250 meters or 274 yards for 100 grams. It comes in a lot of these really, really beautiful heathered colors. This one is scarlet. This one is burnt orange. This one's called sunflower, which I really like. The green that I got is lichen. However, they had a lot of really good greens. Like, I really wanted to buy one of the teal skeins because, again, y'all know I'm a sucker for teal, but I couldn't justify it because I was already getting 5 skeins of yarn. That's a lot of yarn. Kelbourne Woolens isn't even the most expensive yarn. I think for myself and a lot of people, it's kind of it's a nicer, more expensive workhorse yarn is kind of like the category that I would put it in, because it is really good yarn. I just think that it is at an affordable price point for the quality that it is, which is very, very high quality. But this last color is Ocean, which I also just really love. And I just think all together, look at that beautiful rainbow. Look at that beautiful rainbow. I am turning these into a cardigan. I already know exactly what kind of cardigan I'm going to do. Well, that's not true. So I do have to do the swatch test. I really want to take one of these out of the skein. I am going to do that today after I'm done finishing this video. I'm going to ball this up and I'm going to do a swatch test to see if this will work out the way I want it to. I would really like to do a cardigan entirely or almost entirely in the Celtic weave stitch. Okay, I've never done the Celtic weave stitch. That's not true. I've attempted it before as a really beginner crocheter and I could not get the hang of it, and I would really like to go at it again because I feel like I understand the stitch more and I have a better tutorial this time. So I'm going to do a swatch test of this with the Celtic weave and see how it swatches out, and then start figuring out the measurements for this cardigan, because I just think it would look really beautiful, really cool, with some rainbow kind of, I don't know, stripes maybe, because the Celtic weave is already a really, if you haven't looked it up, I'm going to insert a photo here maybe of the Celtic weave stitch, the way it looks like swatched out. It's really neat, and I think if there was like one row of rainbow, or technically it would be 2 or maybe 3 because it's a 2 or 3 row repeat, right? I think I would like to do like rows with the rainbow so it'll look like it's sort of like interwoven and latched together. I don't know. I just really love the look. I have an idea in my head. If it doesn't work out, I am going to frog it, and I will figure out something else to do with this yarn, probably with a similar theme with like color work. I originally was thinking I was going to do maybe something really simple, not simple, but like simpler color work with like hearts and the rainbow, but I just like feel like that's not exactly what I want. I don't know. I kind of want to mess around with some more interesting crochet stitches again, because I think this is the year for interesting crochet stitches. So yeah, that's my plan with all of this yarn. I have 5 skeins of like various colors, and then I have 4 of these, which I think puts me at something like 2,700 yards or something like that. I don't know. I did the math earlier, so don't hold it against me. But yeah, I think I definitely have enough yarn to do the cardigan, so I'm like, why not? Normalize buying enough yarn for a large project in maybe 2 separate purchases if you can swing it. Like, I know this probably wasn't the smartest, right? Because I went online to web, so they didn't have the colors that I wanted. Obviously, the colors of something that you want can obviously sell out. But it was very financially responsible of me to buy these separately, to not buy all 9 skeins of this yarn all together. I think it ended up running me something like, I have my receipt, so I'm gonna tell y'all the actual deets. These were 18 a piece, so this ran me 90 flat because I was buying it in Jersey, so there's no like sales tax on something like this. A little bit about Kelbourne Woolens from their company page. They are a woman-owned business. We love to see it. I love to see women-owned fiber arts companies, okay? That's probably why the colors are so good. Let's be real here. Their company is Philadelphia-based, and they do have commitments to fair wages, and they do a fair amount of giving back and donating back and supporting things like equality for all in the hiring spaces, which again, now more than ever, I really appreciate seeing those things. We have immediately seen a lot of large companies peel back their protections on things like that, which again, for I think a lot of Americans, like maybe that doesn't mean anything to you, that doesn't impact you, but it really sucks when like, you know, I know that I maybe didn't get a job because they just don't like people like me there. And you can argue that, right? Like, okay, why would you want to work somewhere like that anyway? But also like people need to make a living. Like sometimes we are not in the position to turn down any job, right? I think a lot of us have been in situations like that at some point in our lives where we kind of just need to take the job because we need the income, and everybody should have the ability to be able to just go get a job. Like, everybody should have the right to work if they want to work, and it's crazy to me that people are like, no, I want to make it harder for people to get a job. Isn't that like, people complain about people on unemployment all the time, and yet you want to make it harder for people to get a job? That's crazy. That's crazy to me. So yeah, now more than ever, we stand companies that have commitments to things like fair wages for the people, because the people making your clothes and the people making your essentials, because at the end of the day, clothing is essential, it is a necessity, should be given fair wages for their labor. And then this absolutely magnificent bouquet of colors is none other than Brooklyn Tweed, okay? I have a few skeins of Shelter from Brooklyn Tweed. In fact, I have 4 skeins of this really beautiful gray color of Brooklyn Tweed. And when I went in, my intention was to buy more skeins of Shelter by Brooklyn Tweed in some other colors. I'm really thinking blues and like jewel tones. That's what I was thinking, okay? I went and made the purchase of the rainbow yarn first because I was like, I'm definitely bringing this home. I know this is exactly the color scheme that I want. They have all of the colors that I need. I'm just going to get it. I'm for sure bringing that home. So I made that purchase. And I was like, I'm gonna keep looking, because they know me there, and they were like, okay, what were you looking at? And I was telling them I was looking at the Shelter by Brooklyn Tweed because I already have 4 skeins of the gray. I should pull out the gray. So this is Shelter by Brooklyn Tweed. Okay, I really love this yarn. It is a 100% American Targhee Columbia wool. Love that combination. Something I love about Brooklyn Tweed is their commitment to American-based wools and an American-based product, because again, I recently read Disappearing Fleeces by Clara Parks, and it is so hard to have your wool 100% like processed and you know, worked with here in the US, not even because of like necessarily like expense and things like that. A lot of the times it's because there is a backlog of people also trying to do the exact same thing, and there's only so many mills and processing facilities. Like, there are not enough of them here in the US, but farmers still make an effort. Companies are still making an effort to actually produce yarns here in the US, which is awesome to see. And Brooklyn Tweed, in my opinion, they do one of the best. They do one of the best here in the US. I really do think that they, as a company, just make a lot of really exceptional yarns with a lot of really interesting bases. So again, this is a Targhee Columbia wool base. I'm pretty sure, I think this is a worsted weight yarn, but maybe it's technically DK weight. Oh, it's worsted weight. I was right. Okay, 140 yards. I'm pretty sure it is 100 grams per skein. It's a really cushy yarn. Like, it has a lot of air and fluff to it, and this is the color Storm Cloud. So my intention was to find something to go with this Storm Cloud, right? I was like, that's the responsible thing to do. I already have like a neutral base for a sweater is what I probably I want to turn these into, just because, again, this is such a beautiful yarn. And eventually I will buy the colors to go with this, but I was dissuaded because an opportunity presented itself. So this is Tones. This is Tones, also by Brooklyn Tweed, okay? Tones is their American Columbia wool, sourced, spun, dyed in the US, alrighty? And this was on clearance, alrighty? So these are some really crazy colors. I totally understand that there are some people who are looking at these colors and are like, that is the most garish thing I've ever seen in my entire life. The thing about me that you don't understand is that I am a fucking clown, okay? I am a clown, and I think I was brought onto this earth to bring joy to others in most cases, and I think that this will bring joy to others. Is it enough for a sweater? Maybe. Maybe. I know I'm playing a little bit of yarn chicken if I turn this into a entire sweater, but here's the thing. I don't know if I'm going to turn it into a sweater. I might turn it into a sweater vest, which are usually, they have not been my thing for like a really long time, but I think it's because a lot of the sweater vests that I see are just not my style. A lot of them are, listen, I love the thrift. I love the thrift. Everything I'm wearing today, in fact, is thrifted once again. It's a really common occurrence in my life. However, I feel like a lot of the sweater vests that I see at the thrift tend to be very like what I would call 90s man colors. So like navies, dark browns, grays, blacks. They're boring. They're boring is what I'm saying, and I want to make something fun. I want to make something exciting. I want to make something kind of clowny. I don't really have an exact design figured out for this yet because I can't, like, I'm seeing checkers, I'm seeing color work, like, I think I need to mull it over and really think about exactly what I'm gonna do with each of these colors and the stitches that I'm gonna use and how I'm going to pull this off. But these are just magnificent. I love these. So yeah, Tones by Brooklyn Tweed. It is also a worsted weight yarn. I didn't even realize that. 140 yards per skein. It is, oh, it has yarn specs on it, which the other one didn't. It says woolen spun 3-ply 24 microns. That's awesome. I don't know if I've ever seen a yarn with all of that information on it before. See, good on you, Brooklyn Tweed. I'm figuring out you do new things every day. Okay, so this is Granada. I'm gonna put the name of it on the screen because I'm not really exactly sure how to pronounce this color. It is a really, really fun seafoam green. We have Melba, which is this coral. This is what caught my eye. This color that like is almost indescribable, but just bright and joyous. I really, really enjoy that. These guys, I had to get. Okay, what did they even name this color? Did they name it something like chartreuse? Zest. They called this one Zest. This one's untwisting. I'll fix it in a minute. The screen is making it look a little bit more yellow, but this is kind of like, it's a really neon green yellow that reminds me of like chartreuse. And then I really, really like the name of this one. This one is Hollyhock. This is just a really bright, like crazy fuchsia. I almost feel like when you put all of them together, the coral, especially on screen, the coral looks very orange and almost washed out, but I promise you it's quite pink as well and very, very bright. But yeah, I just think crazy sweater vest, I don't know, I see it, and I just had to have all of these together. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 skeins of this, which again, like, listen, for the knitters of the world, I know that's enough for you. And I understand that, like, oh, blah, 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 blah. If you just, you know, became a more dedicated knitter, then you would have to buy less yarn. Who cares? Who cares? I don't care. I like to crochet. I'm going to crochet. I'm going to use the nice stuff. And you know what? My money is going to small businesses and companies that know what they're about and support the same things I do. So if I have to kick them a little bit of extra cash because I need 30% more of the yarn, so be it. So be it. Okay, and I will admit when I look at them up close, because I didn't do a side-by-side in the store. Like, these are clearly different wools, right? That's the thing that I understand in my heart of hearts. That I can clearly tell that the fine wool content in this is a little bit higher. And I would even go as far as saying that this skein is greasier than this. This skein is greasier than this one. Maybe that's just the fine wool talking and my, brain, right? So one would argue that because these are both, is this a 3-ply or a 2-ply yarn? See, I think this is a 2-ply yarn, and that's why I'm wary to incorporate the shelter into something with the tones, because I just don't think that it is going to swatch out the same as these. I just do not think that it's close enough. And so I'm really inclined to just save my monies and wait and then eventually buy something that can go with this storm cloud, because it's just such beautiful yarn and I really want to use it. But I do think that it's so beautiful that it deserves to be a sweater. I don't know. I feel that way, especially, then when people touch my sweater and they're like, wow, it's so soft, I can be like, yeah, it's Targi wool. It's not merino. Let me talk your ear off about Targi and why you should give it a try and try other wools besides merino, especially US-based wools. And this is the part of the video where I remind you that, I promise that this is not sponsored. I'm just kind of like a wool geek, and I really support what Brooklyn Tweed is trying to do. So on their page, they say, our mission is to connect hand knitters to their materials by creating timeless wool yarns and patterns that support textile production in the USA. I feel like they, almost better than any other company I have seen, especially in the wool game, in the yarn game, are so unbelievably transparent and open and organized. They have a staff there and they use it to make it very clear how exactly their yarn is getting grown, produced here in the US, processed, and then gets into the knitter's hand, which I really appreciate. They do all natural fibers, all US-based fibers, so US-based cotton, US-based wools, breed-specific wools, which again are not available from every brand of yarn. And then what I also love is that a lot of the times with other yarns, when they do breed-specific yarns, for some reason they only give us the neutrals, the undyed naturals, as if people who want breed-specific wool only want grays and whites and browns. It's really annoying. I feel like getting breed-specific dyed wool is exceptionally difficult, and yet Brooklyn Tweed makes it possible, and they make it fairly accessible too. Brooklyn Tweed is very, very affordable compared to true farm yarns, which again, in a lot of cases, if you want the colors, you have to buy them white and dye them yourself, which is again, that's wonderful, that's great, but and I'm the first to be I love farm yarns, I love a farmy yarn, you guys know I love a yarn that smells like a sheep, but there is no doubt that it comes with a cost, it comes with a price. It is impossible for me to not acknowledge the weight of that cost, especially for lots of individuals in the current economy in 2025. And so compared to that, right, this tones that I got for $11.50 a skein on clearance, I think originally though it was $13.50, that's not too bad. I don't know, for a farm yarn, a lot of farm yarn, the base price for them are going to be $25 a skein. So again, for some people, that's so crazy, could never be affordable, could never be something they knit a whole sweater out of. Totally understand that. But for those of you who are like myself and are willing to crochet and knit less items for the sake of those items being made with materials that you really cherish and hold close to your heart, the way that I do these Brooklyn Tweed yarns, this is a really good option. One of my favorite parts of the Brooklyn Tweed website, besides the fact that, again, they're very transparent about where they get all their resources and where they do their processing, there's this, like, map you can go to where you can see all of the, like, different resources and places that they pull from to actually get this job done. And then I will say, similarly to our lovely folks over at Kelbourne Woolens, they do still have their equality and their like equal hiring practices stuff up on their website, which again, I know for some, like, there's a lot of people who can be like, that's the bar, Brian, but like the bar is falling every day. And so I like to keep an eye on things like that personally. I really do. And so I will continue to give both of these companies my money because it is always a pleasure to buy their yarns, and also just be like, look into them and be reminded that like I really do, I love these companies. I love what they're doing. I appreciate it now more than ever after reading Disappearing Fleeces by Clara Parks, which again I'm gonna do a whole video on eventually. I just really want to like organize my thoughts. I might even reread the entire book again to really consolidate exactly how I want to present the book and what I want to say, because if you've read the book, you just know that there's so much that goes into wool and into getting a yarn made, let alone an entire like garment. Like, that's the thing that people don't understand. It's hard enough to get the entire yarn made here in the US, and then like God forbid you want it woven and produced and cut and sewn all together here. It's hard. It's hard out there, okay? So it's a really great read. It was really interesting. Those are all of my yarns, though. That's all I got. I just got those two, I just got those 2 yarns. But they will keep me busy for a long while, I think, and they are holding me off because my favorite craft thrift store is not reopened yet. I think it's reopening on the 30th. So this Thursday, I am really gonna try to go this Thursday because I really wanted to make a craft thrift store video for you guys before I am off of my winter break and back to work. Thank you all for tuning in this January. It has really meant the world to me. I can't believe that I'm already at like 3,000 subscribers. That's crazy. That's crazy. Thank you so much, guys, for like tuning in and coming to hang out and chat about all of this stuff. If you made it this far into the video, put down below what you were crafting on while you were listening along. Don't forget to like and subscribe, 5 of our friends, and I will see you on the next one.